pleasant good night, and thank you once again for joining HealthWise by the St. Kitts Nevis Medical and Dental Association. As usual, I want to thank you for sharing your Monday nights with us. It is always a pleasure to be in your presence. I am your host, Dr. Woodley. As usual, we use this platform to motivate you, our listening audience, to improve and maintain good health. And we do this through discussions of various health issues nationally, regionally, and internationally. We believe that education is the pillar to prevent diseases. As the late philosopher Desiderius Erasmus said, prevention is cure. And that has been a fundamental principle in modern health care systems. We also use this platform to showcase and introduce our team. Yes, it is a team because we have to work together to get this done. And our team consists of nurses, doctors, allied health, and tonight we have our emergency medical services, more specifically emergency medical technicians here with us tonight. This week, we celebrate EMS Week from May 21st to May 27th, where emergency care begins. And we are thanking the men of the emergency medical service for their hard work, their dedication, and their sacrifice to the Federation for the past 20 to 25 years. As head of EMS, I took a post January 2023, my first order of business was to create an environment of appreciation, because too often this is a department that you don't hear about, that goes without reward, and they are vital, critical in the chain of the healthcare system. Another objective of me being on staff is to reignite the passion to serve, and not just to serve, but to serve with distinction and with excellence. In studio, I have with me 3 members of the St. Kitts Emergency Medical Services, and they will introduce themselves shortly. To my right, I have the Captain, EMT Ronald Roberts. To my immediate left, I have an executive member, Mr. Davis Glasgow, and on my far left, I have the EMS event coordinator, Mr. L. Hodge. So gentlemen, thank you for being here with me tonight on HealthWise, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself to the public, starting with the captain, Mr. Roberts.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Roberts, a 23-year veteran in the emergency department, and I rise to the rank of captain just in a few months ago for the Federation, for the St. Kitts side of the emergency medical service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. And to my left, Mr. EMT Glasgow. Good night.
Good night to you listening audience. My name is Davis Glasgow. I am one of the executive members of the EMS department of St. Kitts.
And to my far left, Mr. EMT Hodge.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lamin Omara Hodge. Everyone calls me Omara Hodge. I'm probably the baby in the group since I'm the youngest EMT, serving approximately 2.5 years, going on 3. And I am the events coordinator for this year's EMS Week.
All right. So we are here tonight. As usual, the association, we always tend to sensitize the public as to what's happening in the arena of health. So the emergency medical services, we decided we're going to showcase them tonight, and especially that this is their week. We have them on the show to sensitize the public, let you know how the system works, the history of the EMS, and we invite you, the public, to call in. We want you to call in tonight with your suggestions, your commendations. That's very important because we have to learn. It is 360. We have to learn to criticize, and at the same time, we have to learn to give applause where it is due. So we're going to look at what is the emergency medical services, and that's our slide 2. And we're going to have the captain start off by explaining what is, or what do we consider emergency medical services.
Okay, emergency medical services, some may call it ambulance service or paramedic service, is an emergency service that provides urgent pre-hospital treatment.
Okay, so the key word here, and I need the public to understand, it is pre-hospital. And when you say pre-hospital, Mr. Roberts, exactly what are you speaking of?
We're speaking of care outside of the emergency room, basically, where someone may have collapsed or suffer some injury, there's an accident, and we render that care that will provide them or give them the opportunity to survive in a way where once they get to the hospital, care will continue.
And this is very important because as a surgeon, many times I come in contact with the emergency medical staff in the emergency room. And I don't know for many of the other doctors, but they always walk with that white paper. And I always make mention to that because that white paper that they give to the doctor in the emergency room, it is vital. Mm-hmm. It has on all the information. It tells me how you would have met the person on the scene. It also tells me exactly what you would have done on the scene. And this is important for me as the surgeon because then I would know exactly what I need to do. So if you realize the emergency medical technicians, their job is to get that patient from the scene, as the captain has said, in a manner that makes my life in the emergency room a whole lot easier. So I'm so grateful for this system, and we're going to see the history of it and how important it is. But before we get into that, Mr. Hodge, our event planner, coordinator,
yes.
We have a week, and can you just enlighten the public about all the things we're going to do during this week?
Well, for starters, for this week, prior to this week, actually, we had some interviews, radio show interviews, that we tried to preempt the week to get the public sensitized as to what's going to be happening during the course of this week. But on Sunday, the 21st, we had a wonderful service at the Reformation Church Fellowship in Taylor's, and it was a fantastic time. The members, we do thank them for hosting us along with the pastor, and we had a wonderful time there. And coming tonight, we're here tonight to also continue along the lines of having all this information being imparted to the general public. And we don't mind as many questions as possible because we're here to facilitate that and to open up your understanding as to what we do as well. Tomorrow, some of the crews are going to be going out to the primary schools for a visit, a short visit, just to, talk to the children, answer any questions that they may have. And one of the reasons why we're actually opening up to the students is because summer is coming up, fast approaching. And a lot of persons are going to be at the beaches, a lot of persons are going to be having fun, parents may not be around. And we want to try as much as possible to get the children to be able to know what to do in the case of an emergency. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to get the children of both the primary and secondary schools sensitized to EMS, small things that they can do in order to help themselves so that we can help them once we get on the scene. On Wednesday, we're going to have what we term as a Save a Life Day, which we're going to be doing some exhibitions at the square, the Independence Square, just opposite National Bank. And we're encouraging the general public to come out and learn some life-saving skills, learn to do some bandages so that you can aid in your own care or family members' care. And we'll be doing that with members of our team on hand. And on Thursday, we're going to be in the secondary schools On Friday, we're going to have a mini motorcade through the streets of Bastille. Saturday, we're going to take a day off because of scheduling, but on Sunday, we'll have an appreciation day for the members of staff of EMS.
So we have a jam-packed week, and we want persons, especially on Wednesday, to pass by the square, you know, go in, interact with the EMTs, ask questions, the students who may be in town, because we can use this even to recruit members, and you're not too old. Okay, so if you want to come by, if you would have had some type of interest in the emergency medical services, then you come by, ask a question, ask them how it is done, because we need men and women to serve, and serve well, and have passion for what they do. We're going to look at some history, but before we get there, I'm going to ask Mr. EMT Glasgow to give us his history as an EMT. And then we're going to get into the regional and international history of the emergency medical service. Mr. Glasgow, good night once again.
Good night to you also, Ms. Dr. Woodley. Well, my history as an EMT begins at 2001 when I joined the EMS department. But then I leave and went to take up President L's place. I rejoined the EMS department in 2011 until now. And I've been working there and I have passion for what I do. Even before joining the EMS, I used to drive the ambulance at the fire department, also as a police officer. There and then we only had just a chance of CPR training. So we used to just load and go. But joining the EMS department really teaches me something that I always wanted to know and learn, is how to care for people, not only the elderly, but in case of anything do happen, if my family or friends or loved ones, even my neighbors, I can assist in some way or the other form. So I'm thankful for the EMS department. I'm here, and my aim right now is to see EMS go forward. I'm working with the team so that we can make it a passionate job for people to love and want to enjoy with us. Thank you.
I just love your energy, and it is so sad that, you know, this is a department that we don't celebrate. This is a department that sometimes we just hear about you if something goes wrong. And I've worked in health for quite a while. I've been around the EMS service for quite a while. And I do applaud you guys. The work that you do, I think it is underestimated. And the Federation, we have benefited tremendously from your dedication and your sacrifice. So if you don't hear it this week from anyone, I just want you guys to know, all the EMS members, that I do appreciate you, I see you, and I thank you for your service. Now, Captain Roberts, in terms of the history, so I loved Mr. Glasgow's history. That was awesome, and I can hear his passion. In terms of the history of the EMS internationally, can we just have a little summary of that, please?
Okay, as some may know, there was a doctor by the name of Joseph Farrington, and he claimed to be the father of EMS. EMS started the ambulance course, or the ambulance course started in 1958. And he believed that lessons learned caring for the combat casualties in World War II and Korea would improve care if applied to the citizens that would have been outside of a hospital. So the U.S. National Registry of Emergency Medical Technician formed in 1971 with Farrington as the first chair. And that year the registry conducted the first EMT A exam. Now, again in 1974, as President Ford came on the scene, he initiated the EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in the community. Now, later on, in May 21 to 27, it would have been the year that EMS would have celebrated a week. And this is now the 49th International EMS Week. And this year theme is Where Emergency Care Begins.
So, EMT Glasgow, can you elaborate where emergency care begins? Do you feel as if you are the beginning of this emergency care?
Well, Doc, and to listening audience outside here, when we say emergency care begins, the EMS department is where everything begins, because without us, the doctors and nurses cannot do nothing.
Amen.
We is the persons who bring the patient to the hospital. So therefore, we are the first responders. We are the EMTs. We are the persons who see the patient in their critical condition or whatever condition they are in. We try our best to stabilize that patient. And while that case, sometimes you may get a call and you see the ambulance crew outside this for a while, and you keep wondering why we didn't just go to the hospital. It's because we have to make an assessment of that patient. So when we take them to the examination room, the doctors already know what we found, how we found them, and what's going on with them. So we is really the front runner of the medical services. And I agree with Dr. Woodley when she said we will be underappreciated. Only when negative things happen, then you hear about the EMS. And I too will go on record and say the EMS department is really the place where emergency care begins.
Thank you. And you made an important point, because sometimes we see the ambulance outside and we're like, why they don't go? Why they don't take the patient and go? But you said something that is really important. Sometimes you are inside there stabilizing the patient, making sure that the neck is in the brace, getting up an IV fluid, making sure that the airway is good. And one thing one of you guys told me, Dr. Woodley, sometimes when we go to the homes, it is not conducive for us to get the stretchers in. So we have to be doing all kind of maneuvers to get ourselves in, climb over chairs, climb over little bars, so that we can get to the patient. And these are the things that we don't realize. Another time one told me that they went to a yard and there were dogs.
Dogs, exactly.
And I am asking persons, when you're going to call the ambulance, if you have dogs, pets, whatever, you have to get them away, so when the ambulance get there, the personnel can just get out and get in. So sometimes you guys encounter so many obstacles that we don't know about, and then we just stay outside with our hands folded and we begin to criticize.
Well, to be quite honest, if you take the islands, both St. Kitts and Nevis, the general public on a whole do not build their homes in the event of an illness.
I love that.
So you'll find you have narrow passageways, you have small openings. We have to take into consideration that when we're moving patients that are very critical, their sugar levels might have dropped where they would have lost consciousness. They can't stand up, obviously, so it means that we have to get them to a stretcher and out of the building. When you make mention of having to move furnitures, yes, you have to move furnitures, you have to move kitchen tables and stack them on each other, and you're mindful of the fact that time is of the essence when it comes to getting the patients the care that they need, because sometimes where you are is not conducive for actually doing the process that you need in order to get the patients what they need. So we have a lot to do and a lot to undertake when it comes to dealing with getting each one of our patients to the hospital. And be mindful that even before we arrive on scene, the information that is being asked of the general public is critical for what we do, so that we can treat you when we get there. Because some persons, I know everyone's private, but the questions that we ask is not for persons down the street to know. It's for us within the department, so that we can get the information dispatched or given out to the ambulance crew that's on their way, so that they can treat you as soon as you get there. It makes no sense for us to have being given information that by the time we get to you, it's something that is totally different, because you want to be private and you don't want to tell someone on the phone what actually is going on with you. And then we get there, you're ill prepared for certain situations. So it is very, very important that you give accurate information for us to assist.
And I'm going to pick, okay, well, let me let the captain come in.
Just one extra on Mr. Hodge. Now, we have a 10-minute window that we try to use on each call. Now, because of the delay that we have in moving furnitures and stacking them up, as Mr. Hodge said, that takes up a lot of time. So by the time the EMTs go back to the vehicle with the patient, probably 20 minutes would have already passed. But they only actually have 5 to 10 minutes all together with that patient. And they have to be very mindful of that. The public, sorry, have to be very mindful of that to get these places clear. Now, this 10 minutes is an international thing. It's not EMS St. Kitts thing, it's international. And it's based on how Mr. Hodge put it. When they build houses, it was not done in a way to emergency. So St. Kitts Nevis, is very tough when it comes around dealing with patients. We getting to patients. We tend to do search and rescue and then patient care.
Wow,
okay?
And that takes up time.
Takes up too many times.
And
okay?
I'm going to piggyback on the housing. I have interest. When you build in your house, get a proper architect to build your house so you can get the spaces. Because I can recall when my mom was sick, she was actually by me, she suffered a stroke. And when the EMTs got there, because the way my house was designed by an architect, which is my husband, it just opened up. So the ambulance, they were just able to just come straight in, pick my mom up, put her on the stretcher, and get her out in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So when we are building our homes, we have to be mindful of the designs, get it designed properly. Because we have to think about sickness. I don't like upstairs homes. I always tell my husband, I don't want an upstairs house. Because yes, we are young now, and even in your young age, things can happen to you, and you cannot go up and you cannot come down.
True.
So when you're designing your homes, please get it done properly by the proper professional so that you can have access in the event that something happens to you or a family member.
Dr. Woodley, it's interesting that you say build house, get an architect, proper architect to do your house. Just about last week, I was at the JNF hospital, the EMS base. A gentleman called and wanted to speak to me personally and asked me what the size of this stretcher. Because he's going to build a house and he wants to build it so the stretcher could come straight in. Right? And while we're on that, some people have elderly folks living with them, and they have them in the back bedroom, the last room in the house, upstairs. Some of you have some high steps, and it's kind of unfair for the EMTs, whosoever they are, to come and to climb up the steps because the stretcher itself is heavy, and some of the patients is saying, saying they have some big people. So, I would encourage them to we model their house, or we make their house over and put the person low or forward. Bring the person from the back bedroom to the front. Yeah. Take your front room, make it a bedroom for that person. Because some people cannot walk. Some of them have amputee. And then when we have to go for them, it takes up a lot of time. And when we do that now, we get a backlash when the Federation really don't understand what we are doing. Some people don't ask questions, they use all kind of curse words, and it is not necessarily. It is not necessary for you to use your curse word, Be with us because we are doing our work and we're doing our work professionally. And the EMTs take the work at heart. We are passionate when it comes to this kind of work. We don't skylark, so we just ask the general public. Even though the house of maker done built, just bring the person forward. Take the elderly person from the top floor to the bottom floor. As Dr. Woodley said, she wants upstairs house, we don't want neither. Thanks.
Okay, so EMT Glasgow, you mentioned the different types of EMS professionals, because sometimes when we hear EMS, we just think of one thing, but you have, definition and classifications. Just to go through it briefly, so that the public can understand that, we have different levels of EMS professionals, and that would be slide. Which side am I on? The slide 8.
Yes, Dr. Woodley. We have EMS. The EMS department, is that's the department. We have EMTs. We have EMT R, that's emergency medical responders. That's the first person to the scene. They emphasize on safety. They go and make sure the scene is safe for the EMTs to come. They also provide, immediate care for life. Checking injuries, they look to see what's really going on so they can give it to the EMTs when they come back. They assist the ambulance personnel when arrived. So the EMRs, those are the first responders, those who go to the scene. So when the EMT's ambulance crew comes, they assist us with what's going on. The EMTs now, we are emergency medical technician. We have the basic, the minimum level of certifications for ambulance personnel. That is after the first responder. That's the next step. The EMTs, that's the technician, that's the basic. The training emphasizes an assessment. We assess the patient when we get there. We give them what care they need. We have to transport them to the specific patient. If they are ill or injured patients, we take them to the hospital. We also assist the administrations of common medication. We assist them in the administration of common medication. That's like IVs or them things. We have an AEMT, that's an advanced. There's someone who is advanced. That is an advanced emergency medical technician. That are intermediate. A short word for the advanced is intermediate. It's a basic level EMT with additional training in certain skills, such as starting an IV, or cleaning an airway, medication administration. These are people who can give that sort of things. Then you have the paramedic, and the paramedic is the highest level of any EMT department internationally. These are the highest level of training for ambulance personnel. These people are trained to insert tubes, like NG tubes to your nose. These are people who do those things. You also start IVS. These are things that we put to give you fuel. Okay. We also do the EKG machines to check out to see what's really going on with your heart. We also have the cardiac rhythm to check the monitor. We check the cardiac rhythm. The cardiac means heart. For those who don't know what cardiac means heart. Also the cardiac defibrillator. Defibrillator is something that we use to shock a patient if they have a heart issue. If you find your heart failing, then we use these defibrillators to shock you to see if we can bring you back. And when we do those things on the outside, the doctors who wait on us in A&E know what we do. So then they are ready, prepared, just waiting for us to arrive.
Okay, so those were the different types of EMS professionals. And we're going to take a break shortly, but I want the numbers to go back on the screen. So when we get back, you can actually call in with your suggestions, your concerns. Call in to congratulate the EMTs on their week of celebration. And we see the numbers there, 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the overseas line is 1239-645-4500. So get your questions ready, and please feel free to call in when we get back. So stick and stay.
What did you mean earlier about climate change, Mom?
Well, when I was your age, I remember beautiful coral reefs and healthy beaches. The summers weren't as hot as they are right now, and the rainy season meant that it only rained when it was supposed to.
And then what happened?
The weather just started to change, and storms got worse. Coral reefs started to die because the ocean was getting too warm, and crops started to die because there was not much rain. We realized as adults that we were doing something that was causing this.
What were you all doing?
Same thing we're doing now. Not using clean, renewable energy, chopping down too many trees, and even polluting the air with gases such as the gases emitted from our cars when we drive around.
We need to help before it's too late, Mom.
We can't let it get worse.
What can I do? We can raise our voices.
With 35 million dreams, aspirations, and futures at risk in Carry Forum, we need your voice in our story against climate change. Acknowledge, commit, act. This message is brought to you by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, under the Intra-ACP Global Climate Change Alliance Plus program and is funded by the European Union.
It's a sore throat. I'll write a prescription and see the nurse regarding the MMR vaccine.
I heard on social media that the COVID-19 vaccine came in a container with the MMR label on it.
Measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is in the vial, no other.
True?
We can't betray our parents' trust. St. Kitts and Nevis has always had an impressive immunization history.
But these diseases aren't around now.
Yes, our borders are open to all kinds of diseases that negatively affect our children and elders.
I never thought about that.
Today, you have a choice whether you get vaccinated. So, you want to continue?
Yes, doctor.
I want to be protected.
Check your doctor or the Ministry of Health to get the information on immunization against childhood diseases, including HPV and polio, and COVID-19 vaccine for elderly persons and persons living with non-communicable diseases.
It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see and the climate's changing.
But hope is remaining.
And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate, one Caribbean.
We will never give up the fight. Feel the temperature rise, souls intensify. It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive.
The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see and the climate's changing.
But hope is remaining.
And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. Caribbean Sea, it's a part of me. We're all in this together, even if we are apart. Moon and all the swan, tout le monde le son. We're all in this together, nous sommes Caribbean. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate, one Caribbean. Nous en dépendons tous, notre planète Terre. Je n'ai pas imaginé un jour un monde sans vie. We're never losing, as long as we're moving.
Towards a better future, it belongs to you and me.
Let's be persistent,
We'll be resilient.
we're all in this together, even if we are apart. Y todos sabemos que todo lo que hacemos. We're all in this together, afecta nuestro mundo. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are
Okay, pleasant good night. And if you're just joining us, we are with the Emergency Medical Service, and they are celebrating a week of activities which we have seen so far. We started with our church service yesterday, and that was great, that was awesome, and we want to thank Pastor Tuckett for his sermon. It was really timely, it was, soul searching, it, caused me to reflect a lot on my very existence and how we interact with one another. So Pastor Tuckett, if you are listening, if you're viewing us tonight, a heartfelt thank you for your message yesterday, and trust me, it didn't fall on deaf ears at all. And this week we also will be visiting the schools, because our objective is to sensitize the students and the teachers alike. We are also hoping to recruit members from the schools as well, get the children interested in the EMS services. We also will be at the Square, that's on Wednesday. We'll be at the Square, where we will be teaching techniques to save life. And who wouldn't want to learn something like that? And on Friday, we would be having our mini motorcade through the streets of Bastille, so that everyone can see the EMS on their little showcase, showing the community, showing the Federation that EMTs are strong. They are here. They should be appreciated. They work hard, they are dedicated, and they make sacrifice to save the people of the Federation. And we cannot forget Nevis, because Nevis too, they have their EMS service as well, the Emergency Medical Service as well. And we want to thank them as well here from St. Kitts for the service they have rendered to the people of Nevis as well. And on Sunday, we're going to have our appreciation dinner for our members of the Emergency Medical Service in St. Kitts, where they would come out all decked out with their weaves and their nice clothes and look good and get certificates of appreciation, etc., etc. So the week, so far, it's going good. And of course, tonight, Monday, we are here on HealthWise by the St. Kitts Nevis Medical and Dental Association. So we're going to look at EMS in St. Kitts, and we're going to have our captain give us a little rundown on the first group, how it started, and where we are today.
Okay, thank you, but let me go on to say thank you again to Pastor Tuckett and Mrs. Tuckett for such a provoking message Sunday. And he had a task, because we had two groups there celebrating the week of activity. Doctor, you mentioned Mr. Glasgow as part of the executive, but we also have Anella Tuckett and Tessa Sutton, who make up the executive along with Dr. Woodley, myself, and Glasgow. Now, how we started. Now, EMS actually started in 1999. These members you see here, the gentleman in the center, would have done the course, 6 weeks training. And it was very intense, very, very intense, from water to land. Very, very intense training. They got the Canadian type of training, and so they would have the opportunity to showcase international certificate. Now, the service started in 1999, actually, with 8 members who would have had the task of operating 2 ambulances for all parishes, every corner of St. Kitts, and they did it very well. To date, some of them are still there, and we definitely appreciate it, like Mrs. Tuckett. She would have been there from the inception. Now, this was done on a basic training, but like I said, very intense, doctor, very intense. Then the emergency service would have been covered by, headed by Director of Institutional Nursing Service. Now it's headed by Dr. Woodley and her team. Now, you see the history. In December 1977, we were used to having the fire service providing us assistance with Mr. Glasgow behind the wheel, doing basic transportation to sick and injured to the hospital. They basically would have take up, do first aid, CPR if necessary, and take to the emergency room. In December 1999, the government then of St. Kitts Nevis came to realization that there was need for more specialized pre-hospital care. And this is where the 8 persons came in and were trained. I must say, the numbers was more than 8, but the training was so intense that some person had different thoughts, you know. So this project was called the pilot project, and they are the ones who actually made this happen and got us to where we are today. And that is why I think that this actual celebration should really go out to those members who actually started EMS in St. Kitts.
Okay, so let us go back to that picture then, that first EMT group, because this is historical.
Yes.
This is historical.
Yes.
These men and women, they are the 4, I don't want to say forefathers, but the forefathers and mothers
of the service.
Of the EMT service here in
Right.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right.
And I am going through, and as I can see, which is my left, I can see Anelda Tuckett.
Anelda, the baby.
Yes, she was a baby, and I can see her
Yes,
face, baby.
yes.
And she's actually part of the team still,
She's part
and
of the
she's
team,
part of the
yes.
executive. I see a nurse, which is Mary Keynes.
Yes.
So she was a nurse, I heard, got into
Got
it,
into
and
the
then
service.
got
yes.
into the
and
service.
she's here still here
And
today.
she's still
and
in.
she gave her support.
And she gives her
everything.
support all the time. I see we have Roach, which is still
Stones,
here.
Roach
Roach Stones, that's over far right.
And she is the cornerstone of the department.
She's the
Yes,
cornerstone of the EMT department
Right.
currently.
She's my boss.
She's the boss. Okay, I like that. And next to Roach we have
Brenda.
but she has left the service.
She has left the service.
But not too long ago.
But not too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Behind, I can see Mr. Brathwaite. I can see his
Yes,
teeth.
yes, Mr. Brathwaite still is a crucial part of us.
And he was at the church service.
And he was
at the
there.
church
Yes,
service
he
yesterday.
showed his support.
Yeah, so I'm
Yes.
so happy, Mr. Brathwaite, for showing up. We have Mr. Wilkes. I
Mr.
can
Wilkes,
see.
he's still there.
He's still
He's
there.
not actually active
But
day
he's
to
always
day, but
willing
he's
to give.
always willing to give.
Willing to give. And some of the other members would have left. So this
Yes.
group made history.
It
in
made
St.
history in St.
And
Kitts.
I think it is important when things like these happen that we celebrate these people.
Yes,
Their
yes.
effort, their time, the passion that they put in.
Because in hearing them speak, it was 8, 2 ambulances, and the whole of St. Kitts, and they never had a problem.
So it was 8 of them.
8 of them.
2 ambulances, and they served.
And they never had a problem.
And they didn't complain.
They did it with, like, you know. clockwork.
Kudos to you guys.
Yes.
We want to thank you. If no one has ever said thank you,
Yes.
I'm saying it tonight. Thank you for being the first group. Thank you for being, the trailblazer
Yes.
of the EMTs here in St. Kitts. You did well.
I think
because
one
from
of-
those 8, look at where we are.
We
today.
are today, 44.
44 now.
Yes.
So from 8 to 44.
44.
Kudos,
Yes.
bravo, great work, job well done. Okay, so we have our ambulances. Where are they situated?
Now the ambulance situated based in JNF. Based in JNF Hospital. That's the base, that's the hub. At the Parks Medical Center at Sandy Point, there's one. At the Mary Charles Hospital, there's one. In those 3 areas, we always try our endeavor best to keep them up and running. Okay? Our sister islands, Alexander Hospital, who technically they are part of us because they do training here, and they are always invited to come along. Just make a phone call, say you're coming down, you want to run with us for the weekend. We do that, no problem. But these are the 3 areas in St. Kitts where they are located in this position because it makes it easier for response. It cuts down the response time. Okay. Later on, we'll go on how the public makes it a little difficult for us and for you, but
Okay, and so before we go to Mr. Glasgow, who is actually in charge of the ambulances.
Yes.
I want to thank Nurse Stanley. She has shouted us out on social media, on ZIZ social media platform. So if you want to send us a message or ask any questions, you can visit ZIZ social media platform, Facebook, and send us your comments. And we also have our always viewer from Bahamas, B. We want to thank you for tuning in as usual to HealthWise. She loves it so much. She's all the way over in the Bahamas. And Robert's told us you have some friends or people listening from England,
Texas, New
Texas.
York.
You know, we thank you for listening. We do appreciate you taking some time out to spend your Monday night with us. So, Mr. Glasgow, head of ambulances, what's going on in that department?
Well, I'm on the executive team, and I'm also the person who is charged with the responsibility of the ambulances. And in that field, I must let the public know, at present we have 9 ambulances, of which 7 are in use. As the captain states before, we have 1 at Mary Charles, 1 at Paxton, and the rest is at JNF. But we are using 1 at JNF at the meantime. You know, there are many activities going on at this point in time. EMS week, we also have cricket, we also have certain things going on. So you may see ambulance here and there, is just because we have certain events to cover. And in doing so, each ambulance is covered with a driver and at least 2 attendants. And we make sure that whenever there's a call, there's someone to respond. But the captain says sometimes the people outside make it hard for us, because sometimes we may get a call, unnecessary call, I must put it that way, because it doesn't really warrant the service of the ambulances. And when we try to speak to somebody, or the dispatcher try to speak to the person, they give us all kind of negative feedback. But, you know, sometimes some of them go so far till what they say I don't want to repeat on air, but I just want the public to know that yes, the ambulance are there, and we are there for you also. We are there to take care of you, not only the elderly, but in case of any emergency, you can call on the EMS department. Later on, the captain will give you the numbers. You can call who don't know the numbers to call to get the ambulance. You can call us direct. You can call us through the hospital phone, and the ambulance will respond once there's a need for it.
Okay, so Mr. EMT Hodge, the Star of Life, that is the symbol for EMTs. What is that about? Can you explain that to us, please?
Well, the Star of Life is a symbol that is used internationally. It was developed so that persons can pretty much refer to, well, within the field, we understand that there are 6 pegs on the Star of Life, all of which refer to life-saving activities. Before an incident actually occurs, we have what is known as early detection, which you will see at the top. That is pretty much something happening. Persons would have noticed that something is happening prior to them calling for or reporting that they would need assistance via ambulance. And then we have the call being made in order to get the ambulance to come out. Now, once the call is made, please, as I mentioned before, it's about giving information, pertinent information. The questions that are asked are not unnecessary questions. They are indeed very much necessary. I know a lot of persons tend to not want to answer questions because they don't want to be involved in things, especially when it's, let's say, something that may need to go to court. Persons tend to want to pull themselves back from it. But when you're talking to the dispatcher or the person that's receiving the call for ambulance service, the questions are very necessary. If the person is stabbed and they're asking you if the person is breathing, if the person is conscious, if they're still bleeding, these are questions that even though the ambulance is on its way, those persons that's on board the ambulance would need to know so that they can quickly jump into action and know exactly what they need to do prior to arriving. Even though they're going to do their assessment, at least they already have a preemptive knowledge of it. The early response is once we've gathered enough information, address the location of the patient, telephone number, patient's name, who, what, when, where. Those questions need to be answered so that we can be dispatched. And that is where the early response is. We will try to get out as quickly as possible. And please, when I say quickly as possible, that also includes no hindrances from traffic. Traffic plays a very big part in delaying of the ambulance. As much as the ambulance is an emergency vehicle with lights and siren, many persons within the public do not adhere to the ambulance or the siren when they hear it. I understand persons have their windows up, music blaring, the AC is on, but we do have side view mirrors, rear view mirror, that you should at least be glancing in from time to time on your way, driving on the streets, so that you know when something is coming up behind you fast. If you don't, you won't know if somebody is actually going to hit in the back of you because their brakes is bad. Glance into your rear view and side view mirrors just in case. And that would assist us a lot. Don't just stop on the road when you see the ambulance. Pull over on the side and then come to a stop. That would give us the opportunity to see clearly that we can pass through, and we would stay in the center of the road, especially when we have dire emergencies where we know someone's life is really in jeopardy, so we can get to them as soon as possible. The unseen for us is when we start and arrive on scene, and we would always call back. All this information is given back to the hospital. So we normally would call back and say that we just arrived and we do have eyes on the patient. And we would try to, at that point in time, assess the patient and then apply care to the patient. And once we're applying care to the patient, once we're satisfied that the patient is stable, and even if we're not satisfied that the patient is stable, and we want to ensure that the critical patient is going to be able to get the care that they need, we would then package, as in load the patient on stretcher, on the ambulance, and then head to the nearest. If we find that we need additional assistance before we get to the Jane France Hospital, we will get to either Poxon or Mary Charles, as the case may be. But once we've stabilized the patient, we will head directly to the Jane France Hospital. And that's where the transport will take place, so we have to definitive care, which is the Jane Hospital.
Okay, so great. This Star of Life, and we see these pictures on the ambulances as well. So this is how you identify that, you know, this is true, because the ambulance says, anywhere you go, you normally would see this Star of Life. So it actually helps us to identify, you know, the ambulances that belong to the healthcare system. Okay, we are getting some good shout outs. EMT Glasgow wife and all shouting out. Everything starts at home. So Mrs. Glasgow, thank you for shouting out your husband and letting him know that his work is appreciated. We have EMT Williams as well, Aishaki. We thank you as well. She's also an EMT. She's proud to be an EMT and she's enjoying the program a lot. So thank you for tuning in. And for anybody else who have any questions, commendations, congratulations, please feel free to go to ZIZ Facebook and drop your comments, your observation, your suggestions. Everything is needed at this point in time. Okay, so we have Glasgow, EMT Glasgow.
Dr. Woodley, before we go further, I'm glad when EMT Hodge state about the traffic, because I myself is a bus driver, I own buses, and you find sometimes that we have an issue where vehicles racing the ambulances. I'm here to admonish people out there, any driver out there, stop racing the ambulances, because someone can stop in front of the ambulance for the ambulance to pass, and by the time you two to pass, they get collided with you. Now you'll be at fault, because you know that the ambulance is traveling at a certain speed. Don't try to race the ambulance. On that note, I was going for a patient, I won't call nobody's name, on radio, on television or radio. I was going for a patient and this bus guy just don't want me to pass. He raced with the ambulance. Lo and behold, the patient I was going for was his girlfriend. So when he ended up reaching home now and he see the ambulance by house, he started to cry. And he said, Richie, because they call me Richie, if I know what's me coming by, I would let you pass. Now, the life you save can be your own. You know, because just for instance that he don't want me to pass, and if I never pass, remember it's the person I'm going for. So it could make matters worse. I think some long there in King Sakoti been singing a song, say, killer on the road. Now you got to be careful when you're doing certain things because you're not going to say the ambulance's fault when you are racing the ambulances. We are not there to race with nobody. We are there to care, the patient their proper care, and to take care of the sick and the needy, not to race nobody's vehicle. So when you, on your motorbikes, and these motorbikes, we have a big problem with the motorbikes, they're dilly-dallying in front of the ambulance, next to the ambulances, so then it makes it hard for us to get to where we want to go. So I'm admonishing the road users, give them a chance. I think somewhere in the law, they say you pull off when you reach somewhere that you can pull off for the ambulance to pass.
Yes.
And don't wait until you hear the siren to pull over. The emergency code is that once you see the light flashing, you're supposed to give way to the ambulances. Now I understand that we are in a small society, everybody know everybody. You know, we don't have a ticket book on the ambulance, which I think we'll get one soon. So we can give somebody some ticket. Because people, yeah, Dr. Woodley, people race the ambulances, people just stop any all over from the ambulances, you can't even get space to turn. You know, so there's a big issue when it comes to traffic and the ambulances. Some people want to go, people abuse you, people scoot down the window just to abuse you. But they're not going to turn down the window to let you pass or tell you pass up. And when you pass, they're dashing behind you for what I don't know. Some people put on their flashers. And even though, while I hear, even though the police officers race the ambulance, which is a bad thing to do. Because I know for a fact I was going to call on Frigate Bay, and police see a vehicle racing the ambulance, and when I turn on, police turn to me and say, I should have followed you and pull over the vehicle. But then they see it happening and they do nothing. So it leaves us in a spot where that we don't have nobody to say nothing to, because the light self racing the ambulance. So who has to complain to? We just want to admonish everybody that when you see the ambulance on the road and it moving, once you see the light on it, give us some time to pass. Because you don't know who is in the ambulance with us, you don't know where we are going to. We're not going to put on a siren just to pass you. No. And if you get anybody with that, take it up with us. Because we're not going to do that.
Okay? I'd like to chime in on the lights. The lights of the ambulance. It is not every time that the ambulance is moving that we're going to have the siren on. There are some patients that we cannot move with the siren. Some of those patients are cardiac patients, some of those patients are schizophrenic patients, some of those patients are asthmatic patients. And a lot of persons, once you hear the siren, you start to get frightened. And that is where we have to be mindful that when we're in the ambulance, no one on our team actually drives the ambulance and has the lights on, siren on, just because they want to clear traffic and get to their destination. It has to be an emergency involved why we would be doing that.
So, EMT Hodge, can you go back to that again in terms of, because sometimes people, but I don't understand why people would be racing the ambulance, number one. I mean, that's just crazy to me. But you're speaking about the lighting, so you said it's not all the time we need to hear the siren to indicate that something acute or there's an emergency.
Correct. Right.
So, okay, so go back over that again, that is important.
There are patients that we cannot transport on the ambulance with sirens on. Yes, we would have the lights on, but we cannot use the siren.
And which light would you use?
We would use a different array of lights because the ambulance actually makes up of red lights. We don't have green on island. Some of the ambulance have the blues, the yellow, the white, and the red. It depends on the category. Depending on the ambulance or the manufacturer of the ambulance, you would find for category 3, which is just the transport, non-threatening, non-life-threatening, the patient is stable, not critical, you would only see just the bar on the top of the ambulance that is actually being signaled. Category 2, you have a different set of chirping happening depending on the ambulance, where it would involve the white, the yellow, and potentially the blue. In some cases, it only has maybe the yellow or just the red bar going around. It depends on how the configuration of the manufacturer of the ambulance is. But when you see all the lights are on and the siren is blaring, and you would find that some of the drivers, for St. Kitts in particular, they would use different sounding tones coming from the ambulance, is because they're trying to get the general public's attention that is something that's happening, that we really need to get there very quickly. And we're giving you a heads up even before we get there, because we know that the patient that we're heading for or taking to JNF Hospital is in a critical state, and we don't need any blockades in front of us. Now, we have traversed the entire island. Most persons who drive the country knows where we have small roads, where we have vehicles parked on the sides, especially on the main roads, like Old Road, Sandy Point, St. Paul's, Date Bay, Atleys, Large Village, Keon, around by the pub, Keys. These are areas that we know are small roads. We have to give, you would hear the wail, which is the normal sound of the ambulance, but then you hear a chirp, just to give you additional notice that we need to pass, because it's something that is critical and we need to get past. Mr. Glasgow spoke about persons racing the ambulance. It is very disheartening when you know that you have a critical patient on board, and every one of the drivers have had instances of persons either racing behind bus drivers because they figure that they get in the right of way once the ambulance passes them. They'll put on their flashers, or they won't, and they'll drive not even 15 feet behind the ambulance, because as a driver I can see that the bus or car or pickup is so close under me that if I were to stop, they would run right through the ambulance. There are persons who would see and hear the ambulance coming and take off. I have had to slow down because an individual in a pickup, a black pickup at that, refused to let me pass until I reached Keon, where he figured that I am so close up under him, which I wasn't close, that he couldn't stand me getting any closer. So he then pulled over. And he pulled over with so much force that dust started flying behind his vehicle because he had to stop. Otherwise he would have run completely off the road. And that would have been another situation that I would have had to call my colleagues to assist, because where I'm going, I can't forsake that patient for him because he's a new call. So these are some of the things that we have to go through, and it's disheartening when situations like that happen. The family members that's on board the ambulance with us, and they're seeing that these persons are delaying the care of their loved ones. The comments that come from the citizens that are on board with us is exactly how we feel, but we can't articulate because we're professionals. We have to hold our tongue. But they can speak. We listen. We don't repeat it, but we understand their pain. There is no member of staff that does not hold the patients that we have on board dear to our hearts. Because if you look at us at the end of our shifts, especially when we have critical calls, every one of our colors is black or brown from the amount of sweat, the intensity that we go through, of the adrenaline that we have to incur, because we know it is life and death that we're dealing with. So please be mindful that it is not easy for us, knowing that we have critical cases on board, and because you're in traffic, not allowing us to pass could potentially lead to the person's demise on board the ambulance. So please, give us way.
Thank you so much, and I hope members of the police forces, members are looking on, and we get so caught up with the tint on our windows and glass, and we have these things happening. And we get tickets, you know, if our tint is a little over, and we have women, I would assume, to race in the ambulance. So, you know, it's just more than stopping people and doing random search. These are things that I think the law actually needs to look in. The law, or the persons who are enforcing the law, they need to look into this as well. We're getting some shout out from Captain Robert's mom, saying hi and that she's so proud of him. As I said, everything starts from home. We have EMT Jones as well. We have Jalil Charles. We were saying, you know, happy EMS week. We thank you guys so much for taking the time out to send these messages. And Marilyn Liebert, Ma, thank you so much. Saying, you know, great job to you guys. Keep up the good work. You know, this is nice. This is touching. Okay, we have Kitishan Babi, I guess. Yeah, I'm thanking us as well. You know, thank you so much. But it is really disheartening, as EMT Hodge said, that we have members of the community who would be, you know, racing with the ambulance. Once you see the ambulance in your rearview mirror, you just pull aside, make sure it's safe, pull aside and stop. It doesn't even have to be a family member of yours on board. Just is a life that we are trying to save. So that in itself should be enough for you to say, hey, let me just pull aside. I'm shocked at the obstacles that, you know, the EMTs face on a daily basis. And, okay, Captain, you want to jump in?
I've been quiet, but listening to the concerns of the other members. But it's easy, you know. We were given the mandate to take time, registration number, and the event. So if the public don't know, the traffic department gave us that option years ago. But the problem is, we are concentrating on driving, not hitting you, not hitting the person, not hitting that brakes for you to hit us in the rear. So we don't have the time to take your registration number. And that is why you guys getting away with it. But I could tell you, it's gonna stop someday. Tailgating is very dangerous. Mr. Glasgow knows. These vehicles go into the shop on a weekly basis. Brakes being changing every 2 to 3 weeks. For my car, I haven't changed the brakes in 2 years. And these ambulances stop on a dime. And when they stop, they have to accelerate again. That is wear and tear. We use 70 to 100 gallons of diesel, fuel, per week on those vehicles. And a lot of them is for unnecessary. Now, I realized they didn't touch the road users, those on foot. Some of you guys like to watch the ambulance coming at high speed, over 60, and they say you're going to cross the road because you're on a crossing. That is very dangerous. You're trying to get away from the ambulance, you may slip and fall. And what's going to happen there? The ambulance is going to get in a collision because the driver is not going to run over you. They're going to pull the ambulance away from you and cause a serious collision. So you guys need to stop that. Driving with your windows up and music playing is no excuse. Okay? That is driving without due care and attention. You're still going to be ticketed and summons. You cannot tell the magistrate you didn't hear the siren. A quick note of Mr. Hodge, as he was explaining the lights, we have code 1, code 2, and code 3. Code 1, all lights, siren. Code 2, lights only. It's still an emergency, and you must still pull over. Light 3, number 3, code 3. We have one, he explained a bar. There's a bar on the top, and it would have illuminated lights on each side. That is code 3. That is where we're doing non-emergency transport, taking someone from point A to point B. That was scheduled to happen. So either way, you must pull over for the ambulance. Now, in saying this, lastly, doctor, the ambulance pulls over only to the fire truck. not to a passenger vehicle, only to the fire truck, not to a police vehicle, not to my dear friend, the Minister of Health, not even to him. He pulls over. The ambulance again only pulls over to the fire truck, the fire engine. That's the only time you see an ambulance pull over from a vehicle. So it simply means it takes you 3 seconds to just pull over, allow the vehicle, the ambulance to go through, and you're on your journey. So from tomorrow, let us, you know,
What
try
about
to
going down
one-way street? Now, the law states that no vehicle must go on a one-way street unless they are sent or authorized by a police officer. Now, we got that option to do it based on the need for it, where there's no other way. We've been obstructed somewhere. You all see a lot of that during the carnival events. Now, the security forces is expecting that to happen. So most of the time, they anticipate that we're going to go down 4th Street. So they clear it. So if we turn somewhere else, they might, why they gone? So they could have just come this way. We try to go to the closest point. Okay? But once we do that, it will be justified why we do it. Also justify why we run a red light. As you see, the ambulance do run red light, but we run it with caution. Caution. We have that ability to run the red light. Okay, that explains.
Oh, that's great. Piggyback on that.
Piggyback. The mandate really is to get to the patient with the least amount of obstacles. Right.
Exactly.
Now, in moving around Bastille, the countryside has a lot of small roads as well too, and persons park really badly in the countryside. And even if you're going for a patient, you have to ensure that you don't scratch people's vehicles, because that's costly to the government. But I went on a call where it was at National Bank. The fastest route would not have been for me to go down West Independence Square Street and then go around Bank Street to come up 4th Street in order to get across to National Bank. The fastest route for me was avoiding the small roads and go directly West Independence Square Street and into Central Street to go by National Bank. And then out onto 4th Street and back towards the hospital to get the patient up. Because that patient was a critical patient. And I knew that it was time sensitive from the information that we got. So sometimes you would find that the ambulance does things, and for the general public, you may not understand, well, why they didn't go the long way. If you ended up in traffic, given the fact how 4th Street tends to be congested on both sides, people parking on both sides of the street, and traffic coming in, still going up, moving in a one-way direction, it makes it very difficult for ambulances to go through there and still be able to maneuver to where the patients are. So we would find that we would use the fastest route, because we're already calculating from the time we're leaving the hospital what routes we need to get to. Even if we're going to go down the bay, instead of going down Wellington Road, we would take Kim Collins Highway, and in order to get down, because we don't want to be blocked by any traffic.
And that we also have partners in this, in the Bastille area, those traffic wardens. They should be mentioned.
Yes,
yes,
that is true.
They do assist.
Yes.
They do assist, as long as they see and know where we're going.
So say that again, the traffic wardens.
The traffic wardens, they do assist a lot. As long as they understand, okay, this is where we want to go. Once we turn, they make the way so we can go. Now, they also have a task, because we all know once the ambulance stops, it's stopped, that's it. And so these traffic wardens have a task now to remove traffic. And it might be for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, who knows. But they are also, they play a role. They help a lot.
This is so interesting. As I'm sitting here, I am so enlightened by all the information I'm getting.
We make life for them very hard, those traffic wardens.
And I didn't even realize the importance of the traffic wardens. I mean, sometimes, I get a little edgy with them and they want to give me a ticket and tell me go there and tell me go here. I was like, why do I have to take that route? And then now you're saying this to me. It makes me realize that who knows?
Something might be the ambulance,
may be happening down below, and they are redirecting traffic.
And we make their life hard.
So, thank you to the traffic wardens. We do appreciate you. And that is why we are here on HealthWise. We are sensitizing the public. We are letting you know what is happening out there. We are tired people. We were working all day. And we are here, but we see that it is important to come here and educate you. And you guys are getting a lot of love on Facebook. I see a lot of persons sending out congratulations. This is so nice. This is encouraging. And I want it to continue not just for this week, but throughout the months of the year and the years to come. A lot of persons, that's Richie, you're the best driver, somebody said. That's nice. I am so loving this. And somebody said, some Stanford Carey, that the EMS and police working together, it will work.
Yeah.
And we also have to add the traffic wardens
The police do work with us. I wouldn't say no.
That is great. That is great. So this is really, really, really so nice. So before, we're going to look at some calls, like some of the injuries that the ambulance would be called for. EMT Glasgow, you can go through that. That's slide 15 for us, please.
All right. On the screen, you see the sort of calls that the ambulance really run to, that we go to. What happens is what injuries or illnesses the EMS provides most commonly, or the most common threat. We have some traumatic injuries, abdominal pain and problems. Like people just call for all kind of, when you say abdominal pain, people call and tell you all sort of things. But it's you now to work it out as to what really they want to say. We go back to the first one, traumatic. You had a head injury or some kind of accident. We go to many accidents. We go to many shooting, man, Lord of mercy. Many shooting. Sometimes we go to shooting. We traumatize ourselves because the police are there to safeguard us. We reach before the police officers. Kudos to them still because they come anyway. So respiratory distress, that's like asthmatic. And seizures, them sort of things where people really need some oxygen, so we take time out to really, really pay attention to those people, to those kind of persons who when they cause. Chest pains, the chest pain really, when we go to chest pain, we ask them, how the pain feeling? We want them to describe it for us in their own words. We don't want to put words in their mouth. We tell them like on a scale of 1 to 10, give us a number how is chest pain feeling. If it's discomfort, if you feel like something, like an elephant standing on your chest, a sharp shooting pain, so you might know if there's really something with the heart, Behavioral or physical, that is like somebody, as people say, gone crazy. We go to them kind of calls, but normally we really, really put it over to the police officers because we don't carry handcuffs and so in the ambulance, but we also go to them calls because people may call and say, we have a brother here behaving bad, we have a sister here behaving bad, we want the ambulance. Send the ambulance, we want it now. So we respond, but when we go and we see, well, it isn't a call for us. We involve the police officers because we don't have nothing to restrain them. Loss of consciousness is something we really, really go out for. And that is when the ambulance really do run. When you hear somebody unconscious, the ambulance really run. Take a plane to catch it back. So we asking everybody else, when you see ambulance moving like that, you don't know what the call is all about. Just give us the way to go. Give us the way to go.
Okay, so that's great.
Give us some things to work with.
I see Dr. Frank. She said, kudos to you guys. We appreciate what you do. Happy EMS week to all of our EMTs, and that's from Dr. Frank. We have our dispatcher, which is slide 40. Yeah, we have our dispatcher there, so that's our base at JNF there. We have our young lady there, that's EMT Jones. And we see the number there, Captain, this slide.
Yes. Now, let's start from the 911 aspect of things. all 80 to 90% of the calls go through 911. Some go through cell phones or our landline, which is 465-2551. They are handled almost the same way. Through 911, it goes to the emergency telecommunication system, which is headquartered at the government, at the police station, sorry. There they will ask 1 or 2 questions. What do you need? We need the ambulance, so they will direct it down to EMS, to that young lady there. Now, when she receives that call from you, the public, she'll ask you a number of questions. And my colleagues loaded all night to the indecent language and refusal to answer certain questions. But it's very crucial. This is where the care starts. That young lady is where the care starts. If she don't get the relevant information, she won't be able to send it to us, and we won't be able to have a good picture of what's happening. Now she'll ask you something, what's the nature of the call? You'll give an example. My mom is unconscious. My mom is not breathing. Someone just got in an accident. And we'll use the accident part of it. What's the location? She'll ask, where is it happening? Where? Now, this is where people now start to get frustrated because they think they're on the phone too long. The ambulance is have not moved as yet, which is true because she haven't got the information that she needs to dispatch the ambulance. The location is crucial, very crucial. Okay? You have to give a pinpoint location where they can at least say Keyon Street in front of Johnny Shop. That's a good address and location. The address is Keyon Street, the location is in front of Johnny Shop. Then she will ask you for a contact number, which is crucial. That number is just to locate you if we cannot find the area that we are going or the person. And on top of that, she may still ask you what's the location of the patient. Okay? The present location, where you want the ambulance, a feedback number, and the location of the patient. In the cases of an accident, how many patients? Now, some person will say, I don't know, I can't go to the account, I ain't a doctor. No, you don't do that. How many? If it's 3, if it's 4, say it's 4. Don't say it's 1 ambulance show up, and then we are now scrabbling to get other ambulance in for that same scene where you could have said. Now she would have asked you what the severity of the injury. What do you see? What are you seeing? You're seeing somebody with laceration or a cut. You see somebody with a hematoma or a bump on a hand is slinging, the clothes is full of blood or red. You know, those are little hints. And then she may ask other information. Now, during this interrogation, at one point in time in there, the ambulance would have been dispatched. You may not know when, but it could be dispatched after you give the location of the patient. It could be dispatched after you give the present location where you want the ambulance. But the whole idea is to get the location so the ambulance could be dispatched. And you know, you guys have to be calm, give the answers the best way you can, don't give any false information. I like when Mr. Glasgow say, unconscious, play will catch us. Now some people take that for advantage. They will call and say somebody is unconscious. When you get there, nothing goes so.
Yeah, the person walk out to you.
We broke so many traffic rules, laws, to get to that patient. We speed, we went to traffic lights, we went to stop sign, we may have gone up around the street just to get to the patient. At the end of it, we have broken at least 4 to 5 traffic rules, and you know, and maybe in the process, somebody's car would have got damaged, not by the ambulance, but by their own wrongdoing. Now, Doctor, while I'm still on that, I don't know if anybody else want to comment, but as of 8 o'clock tonight, on this month of May, we have received 2,040 calls. Now that's a lot. And these are emergency calls that comes into the department. The outcome of them would have been different. Could have been some part of...
So can you go through that number again? How many calls we had?
2,040, 2040.
2,040 calls for the year.
For the year. And like I said, that could have been... outcome of them could have been very bad, or actually nothing by the time the ambulance got there. But sometimes it's what the person perceive, what the caller saw, and to everybody, your emergency seems greater than another person. But we take every call comes in, we take it as emergency. And that's why we will respond, and respond rapid response. And when we get there, it's nothing like what they say.
So that brings us to some unnecessary calls that I know you guys would encounter.
A lot of them.
So that's slide 16 for us.
Okay.
And guys, we only have like 3 minutes.
Okay.
The time went by so quickly.
1 minute for
we were having fun.
Okay.
So that means that we have to come back.
Yes,
this is
we
not,
definitely have to
this
come
was just the appetizer, right. So we have to come back. Yeah. So some unnecessary
Let me give you
ambulances.
1 minute or so. Patient refuse transport to hospital. We may get there and they may say, I didn't call the ambulance, I don't want the ambulance. Yeah, so they refuse. That's money and time gone. There the ambulance could have been on another call that someone is really waiting. They tend to use this ambulance as a taxi to get home or to get to the hospital for a minor headache of some sort. When we get there, sometimes there's no patient, can't find anybody. Somebody says, oh, he gone up the road, he done gone. And sometimes we just need to call back and say, hey, listen, the person gone, or they catch a ride and they come in. The ambulance was cancelled during the ambulance dispatch. This is a good and a bad thing. It may cancel inside the yard, it may cancel just as they leave the yard. I mean, money saved there, but it's still, it's still something that we should not try to avoid. That ambulance call was made as a result of mischief, prank. Now, sometimes a lot of us experience where you would have passed, and I will use fuel, for example. You go for fuel, you pick up fuel, you leave the area, and you're heading back to the hospital. And the route you take, someone will see the ambulance, and by the time you get to the yard, you get a call, and it's a serious call. Somebody got shot, somebody got run over. The ambulance turn around and fly back. And they say, I just passed there. And when you get there, there's nothing. Okay? This don't just take a toll on EMS. It takes a toll on every single responding agency. Because everybody who is somebody who's in charge of the department is going to get a phone call. Ambulance is going to show up. Ambulance may have to delay based on what they say happened for the police to come in first. That's another waste of time because the police is going to respond to nothing. Okay? So the mischievous calls, they're not too bad now, doctor, but they was real terrible. So.
Okay, so guys, we have a lot more to go through. So that definitely means that we have another date.
Yes.
Here on HealthWise. So we have, what you call a sequel, a part 2. Yes. This is like a series, a Netflix series now going on here. We have Beverly who said, this is an eye-opening session for her. And she wants to big up HealthWise, the association, and wishing you guys a very pleasant week. We're going to close off now. We just have, it's 10:01, and I see my Ziz friends over there ready to go home. So we're going to have you guys just close off, give your closing off remarks, with the expectation that you're coming back, right? This time we would probably walk with Tessa and Nelda the next time, the whole team. So just give your closing remarks briefly, because we're over 10 already, and then we will get out of here. Yeah, Captain, we start with you.
Okay, First, I'd like to congratulate all members of the Emergency Medical Department, and I want to say happy EMS week. And we need to take this week as a time in our career to really know where we're going, where we want to be, and where we want the service to be. Okay? And I'm encouraging everyone out there, the citizens, please to cooperate with the drivers or the ambulance when you see it in traffic. When making your calls, be precise. We know it's an emergency, you know you care, but take a time out, relax, breathe, and listen to the dispatcher as they ask questions. And we'll be back. Can't give you the date, but we will be back. Part 2.
Okay, Part 2. Okay, EMT Glasgow.
All right. I wanted to thank you for all who viewing this program tonight, and I would like to say congratulations to all the EMTs from the first batch until the last batch. I would like to say happy EMS week to all of us, you know. Also to Dr. Woodley, you and the staff now, so happy EMS week to you also. And to all of everybody outside there. What was said here tonight is something that we really does encounter on a daily basis. So don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Call in and give the proper information. When you see the ambulance coming, please give us the way to go so that we can be efficient and more productive at all times. And yes, we'll be back. You'll see me shortly.
Definitely.
All right. For my closing, I would venture to say I agree with everything that was said prior. But one of the things I would like to add is please be mindful that even though we're professionals in the job that we do, we care for every patient that we come for and come across. So don't ever think that we just picking up patients. We don't see it that way because we have to interact with their family members apart from the patient themselves. So be mindful that even if something happens, your families, we take on board that they are families as well. So we treat them as if it's our family. So for EMS, we're happy that we're having this week, and we'll continue to do the best job possible for the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis with our colleagues in Nevis. Whether it be through collaborative efforts with the police, the fire, which we do collaborate on many different emergencies. But please, continue to celebrate with us. Come out on Wednesday for the interactive side of us. I would like to have some of you guys in the general public try your hand at doing some CPR, etc. And ask as many questions as you like on Wednesday. And we do look forward to it. For my team of coordinators, thank you very much for the support, and the persons who have given 100% to the initiative of EMS Week. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I want to thank you gentlemen for coming on the air tonight. I want to thank ZIZ as usual for hosting us. I want to thank the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, the hospital, the DHI, the operational manager for supporting our EMS Week. I want to thank you, the listening, or the viewing audience. I see EMT Hodge. I see Shermel Christopher, who said the information was great. Knowledge is power. On that note, please continue celebrating with us, not only this week, but throughout the year and the years to come. Have a productive week, stay safe, and when you see the ambulance, pull aside. Good night.